50 Shades of Food, Mr. James Brewer. This is the one that makes you go nuts and bonkers and happiness. This is the one. So James and his lovely wife Charlotte used to come to my cafe many moons ago, and this cake was always on the counter. If this cake wasn't on the counter, we usually used to have Muttony on the Bounty. As Daisy's little friend once said, she was very sweet, Jess. She said, very importantly, I'd like to read the book Muttony on the Bounty. Anyway, so I'm going to make it now for you, James, because I know you used to like it. Now, this recipe is one adapted from Vicky, who used to work at the cafe, and she brought it with her to the cafe. So it's kind of down to her that I'm doing this recipe, but I've just slightly adapted it. Right, bananas. Now, ideally really ripe. Now, a really good way, if you've got some bananas looking a bit dodgy in your fruit bowl and you don't want to use them straight away, freeze them. They freeze brilliantly. And then when you take them out, they're really soft and slightly gooey, and they make a much better cake. So we used to buy in really cheap bananas left over at a fruit and veg place, and we used to freeze them, and we used to do that for the cake. And they're just so much nicer, and it also makes the infamous banana bread as well. Perfect for that. But I'm going to use 2 bananas in here. These are quite ripe, so you can see they're mashing up quite well. Oh, now apparently we always do it wrong, don't we, with bananas? Is it?
You meant to, yeah, from that end.
From that end, you're supposed to
That's
open the banana.
the way that monkeys, or whatever the apes are that eat bananas.
That's how they do
That's
it.
the end they open them from.
Let's see. I've been doing it wrong all these years. Okay, so bananas go in there. And then some sugar, okay? That's demerara sugar. Also, 4 eggs. I know that much. I'm going to put all of this onto the YouTube channel, the whole recipe. So you can watch it on this, but then if you go to YouTube and look at the bottom in the comments, I always put the recipe ingredients, so you can get the ingredients and then you can make it. All right. I'm going to beat this up until it's all nice and mixed. Alrighty, so that's gone really pale and a little bit thicker, and that's just how you want it. So next I'm going to put in some vanilla extract, about half a teaspoon. That's half a teaspoon. I was looking for my glasses earlier, couldn't find them anywhere. Where were they, John?
On your head.
On my head. So we're going to do half a teaspoon of that in. Then we're going to add, this is 425 grams of plain flour, okay. 270 mils of oil, so sunflower oil, vegetable oil, nothing special. Certainly not rapeseed and certainly not olive oil, okay. Do not do that, just a neutral oil goes in there. And then I'm going to add 2.5 teaspoons of baking powder, flat, okay. This isn't like a teaspoon out the door. You do have to have a measuring for this one, okay? So 2.5 of those of that baking powder. And then we're going to add 1.5 of bicarb, okay? Again, flat. Like you're measuring out baby milk. Remember those days, John? Measuring out baby milk, you had to use a knife, didn't you, to flatten it. Okay, so I'm just going to beat this together. We'll just stir it gently together. We make a terrible mess, don't we? Everything everywhere. So, bananas go into this cake. I don't think I've said what goes into it, have I? It's banana, carrot and walnut cake. And it's got this beautiful cream cheesy frosting on top. It's really, honestly, it's such a scrumptious cake. And the reason it did so well was A, because it tasted amazing, but it also was great for a cafe because it was an oil-based cake. So it lasts longer before it dries out. So you've got quite a few days for it to stay moist. So this will stay for at least a week in your tin. Next, we'll work quite quickly. I'm going to pile the grated carrots in. Okay, put those in. Just I can't remember how many. I think it's 3. And a good handful of walnuts. So just break them up slightly. It's about 80 grams, I think we use. Does this sound quite nice to you?
Sounds lovely.
It's very healthy because it's got one of your 5 a day in it. It's got loose potatoes. Just ignore the fact that it's got sugar in it. It doesn't matter. You've got carrots in, you've got walnuts. Walnut for the brain, brilliant. Banana for the heart. Carrots to make you see better. It's really a very healthy cake. so healthy. And you put the cream cheese on top and it's really good for your bones. It's got lots of calcium. See everyone? Have I convinced you? It's a very lovely cake. Okay, just a bit more than that. I don't like it people are generous with them. Let's get loads in there. Give it a last stir. The aim of that last bit was just to make sure that all of the carrots and everything's all mixed in really well. I've got a springform tin here, it's about 23 centimetres I think, and I've lined it with some greaseproof paper, but I've also given it a bit of oil around the edge as well. Okay, so hopefully nothing will stick to it. It's like Teflon. Okay, it's going to come up with a silly joke there. Bits of carrot. Does it get down the front?
Can't see any. Probably though.
So, let's pour that into the cake tin. Big wiggly worms of carrot there. I'm sure if everyone else grated their carrot, they get it a lot smaller than me. But it's a grater I used. I use this. It's like a mandolini grater thing because the other grater, I've already grated my knuckle today doing something else. So I just thought I'd give myself a break. Right, there we go. So that now just goes into the oven. Quite a long time. 170 degrees, I know that much. But kind of about an hour-ish or 45 minutes, an hour, something like that. But I will let you know when it comes out. Cake's done. Beautiful. Look. You've seen this gorgeous cake, there it is. Do you know it took about an hour and a half in the oven at 170? You just cook it quite slowly and you want to make sure it's not wet in the middle. So about an hour and sort of 10, I just popped a knife just very carefully into it and pulled it out, and it was still a bit wet. So I gave it a bit longer, so it was about an hour and a half in a fan oven at 170, but it's beautifully cooked now. It's so scrumptious. Right, I'm going to frost it. So, my frosting is really easy to make and I've perfected it over the years. I have it in my head, the recipe. I usually make too much, but again, it freezes very, very well. Like so many things, this cake freezes freezes well as well before it's iced. So if you want to make a couple of these and pop one in the freezer, brilliant. We always used to make loads of them and I knew that they froze well because in the cafe we had loads. Anyway, butter, unsalted butter, 1 pack goes into the stand mixer. Okay, now if you've got a hand whisk, that would be great, use that. Okay, this isn't something that's easy to make by hand, so beating it, it'll take forever. So if you can use one of this, an electric form of whisking, that's great. So that is slightly softened, all right, room temperature. And then to that I'm going to add half a pack of cream cheese. I think, trying to look, this is 250, so about 125 of the cream cheese. Okay, so that's half a pack. What this does, it just gives a lovely bit of lactic acidity to the frosting, because you are going to be using quite a bit of sugar, so it gives that, but it also softens it. Okay, and as well as softening it, also firms it, if that makes sense, because the butter can be very, very soft, so this just helps keep it all together very well. But you don't need more than half a pack to so basically half the cream cheese to the butter. Just going to give that a whisk together, and then I'm going to pop in probably about half of this, about 500 grams of ice sugar. So that's mixed together. So when in the cafe, when I used to make this, when James used to come to the cafe and eat this cake, we used to make this all the time. So I kind of have, you know, when you just have the recipe in your head using packs of this and da 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 da. So it is definitely 500 grams of the sugar for the half version. We used to make this by the ton every day. So I'd make that cake and this every day. It was so popular. All right, so that's half of that in there. I'm going to give it a little squeeze of lime or lemon juice. I just happen to have a lime hanging around, so it just gives a nice little bit of acidulation. Again, because you're doing lots of sugar in there. So give that a squeeze. Put a tea towel over the top because there's icing sugar. And I have learned over the years that if you don't do that, you end up looking like a snowman or somebody with a terrible habit. Simple as that. It'll be the quickest frosting you think you've ever made. I'm just going to just scoop around the edge again, just give it one more little whiz to make sure it's all in there. And do you know what's really good about this? Is that you can add cocoa powder to it and colouring to it, so you've got a really good base cream cheese frosting there for this beautiful cake. Alrighty, summer frosting is ready. Grab my cake. So I'm going to ice it on a Lazy Susan. I don't have a cake spinny thing. In fact, I use this. This is the one I used to use all those years ago. This has served me very well. It's a Lazy Susan from IKEA. And they cost nothing, but they do the job. So spoon, I'm going to wallop of the frosting on top. Now I think what I'm going to do is actually go around the edges as well. If you want to, John, because this takes a little while, you could do this on a speedy up thing again, if you fancy it. Ta-da! It's quite simple, isn't it? So I'm just going to slide the cake off the Lazy. With a big spatula to do that, but you can use your hand as well. Just get okay. Oh, that you can see. Look, thank you, John. Oh, thank you, sweetheart. That's lovely. Right, put it onto a nice plate like that. Yum yum. Oh, lovely. A little bit of lime in there. Really made it. And now I'm just going to finish it off by sticking some walnuts on top in a random fashion. It is literally as simple as that. And that's how we finished it. And that is your passion cake. It's a really, really simple recipe, honestly. It's so easy to make, but what's lovely about it is it's beautifully moist because you've got the carrot, the walnut, bananas, and also because it's an oil-based cake. And that really does make a huge difference to a cake. Having that, it just makes it last longer and keeps it lovely and moist. And honestly, it will be devoured enormously. That's it. If you wanted to, you could put a bit of glitter on top. We used to, but you know, why not? Let's just not do it today. Let's just stick some more of these on top. And do you want to have a slice? Should we go for it? I need a plate. So we used to give a third of a quarter for this, for a portion, and that is plenty because it's a very big cake. It's very deep, and oh gosh, you know what? I haven't had one of these in years. I've just left a little bit of it inside. There we go. Honestly, I don't think I've eaten it for years, so it's the first for me for a long time. Look, just look how bouncy that is. Okay. Takes me back. That's a lovely cake. Well done, James. Glad you remembered about it. And you know what? I'm really glad I revisited it. So, give it a go. And anybody else who wants to send me their favourites or the most beautiful food for the 50 Shades of Food, hopefully I'll get some more and I can make them. Oh my god, this is so good.